The man ordered a children's breakfast. But can you believe it? This children's breakfast contains 8 cheese and potato omelets, 20 slices of bacon, 12 sausages, 4 slices of fried bread, 4 slices of toast, 4 slices of bread with butter. There are also a few mushrooms, beans, and other side dishes. All of this food is served on one plate and weighs 9.5 pounds. This breakfast is priced at £15 if you can finish it within an hour. The owner will give you a full refund. This is the restaurant that is famous for the largest breakfast in the UK. When the children's breakfast is served, the man can't believe his eyes. He keeps eating, trying to eliminate all the food, but he only ate a tenth of it. He didn't understand and asked the owner why such a breakfast was introduced. The shopkeeper's answer was simply that because everyone was selling large portions of the set menu. However, a few years ago, this kind of portion-size set meal was unthinkable. This is because at that time, people's appetite did not move towards supersized portions. But as the society changed, people's eating habits also produced changes. People begin to eat bigger and bigger, and the problem of obesity becomes more and more serious. Globally, 1,400,000,000 adults are overweight and 500 million are severely obese. Obesity can cause serious diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. Obesity has become a problem that cannot be ignored. But who exactly changed people's eating habits? Who made people eat bigger and bigger? Who made us obese? I believe we are all eager to know the answer about obesity. It needs to start from the United States of America in the 60 to 70 years belt of the last world. Chicago is the birthplace of supersized portions, but not in fast food restaurants or supermarkets, but in movie theaters. In 1967, a manager of a movie theater chain discovered through observation that audiences didn't like to buy multiple servings of popcorn at a time in order to grow his profits. He came up with a new business model. He started to sell extra large portions of popcorn, and he didn't realize that this method was a big success. Because people get the illusion that the bigger the serving, the better the deal. The movie theater's sales increased dramatically, and this manager was recognized for his work. Soon he was offered a new job at McDonald's. The manager wanted to bring this sales model to McDonald's, but initially, the chairman of McDonald's was rejecting this approach. He didn't think that the customers would buy excessive amount of food. The manager tried to convince the chairman by sitting in the McDonald's restaurant every day and observing the habits of the guests. He saw that the customers would pour the fries all the way into their mouths, which showed that one serving of fries did not fully satisfy them, but in general, they would not buy a second portion of fries. This is a good indication of the possibility of selling extra large portions of fries. As long as a serving of fries is large enough, guests will eat more without realizing it. Eventually, the chairman of the board agreed that he would utilize this sales model at the McDonald's restaurant in Chicago. Soon, the manager proved the correctness of this sales approach once again. This sales approach also gradually changed people's eating habits, and people began to eat more and more food. The weight also began to rise. We seem to have found some of the causes of obesity. It is the business decision that changed my behavior. This led to a series of chain reactions, and the end result is a rise in weight figures. But in addition to this change in sales patterns, the restaurant and manufacturing industries have done a lot more. Every decision they make affects weight change. After the success of the supersized portion packages, the package manufacturing industry started producing more supersized packages as well. They even emphasize on their packages that the bigger the portion, the cheaper the price. These behaviors continue to change the eating and consumption habits of guests. On the other hand, restaurants continue to look for ways to increase sales and profits. The counter sales model was born. This approach significantly reduces the queuing time of guests. For every 15-second reduction in line time, the company's sales rose by 1%. The more food customers buy, the more profitable the company becomes. They've even introduced more diverse oversized portion packages, adding appetizers, entrees, desserts, drinks, and more. This approach continues to raise the average spend and get guests to pay more. The restaurant's revenue continues to rise as well. Guests are bombarded with information about all kinds of food, and restaurants find ways to incentivize them to buy oversized prix-fixe menus. It's hard to imagine that at one time the Coke in a set menu was only such a tiny bottle, but now, Coke Max is out at 2 liters. It contains a third of the calories a person needs in a day. Modern people are also becoming more time efficient and affordable, and supersized packages fulfill this need. It is in this general environment that people are gradually changing their eating habits. Obese people are also becoming more and more. Business decisions have had a profound effect on people's weight and obesity. But the causes of obesity are diverse. Changes in business models are only part of the reason, and another part of the reason comes from political decisions. In the United States in the early 1970s, the then president was Richard Nixon. He was facing difficulties at home and abroad. Abroad, soldiers were in the throes of the Vietnam War, and within the country, housewives were protesting soaring food prices. The presidential election was about to begin, and Nixon did very much to win support and votes. First, he appointed a new Secretary of Agriculture to tackle the food problem. When the new secretary took office, he urged farmers to make the most of every inch of land. He needed to get small farms all developed into large industrialized farms. After a few efforts, corn production greatly increased and farmers became more profitable. The corn fed a large number of cattle and the price of beef fell. The demands of housewives were effectively addressed, but a new problem soon appeared: an overproduction of corn. The new minister needed to continue to figure out how to solve the problem. He knew that Japanese scientists had invented a processing method that could turn corn into a cheap sweetener. It was also known as corn syrup. This new industrial sweetener quickly became the #1 substitute for sugar. It was added to a wide variety of foods. From that point on, various decisions by the Nixon administration revolutionized the American diet. It also laid the groundwork for the obesity problem. Coke is a familiar drink. Since 1984, Coca-Cola and Pepsi have replaced sugar with cheap corn syrup. They found that corn syrup would not change the flavor of Coke, but production costs were saved by a third and profits were skyrocketing. The news inspired beverage companies to produce the drink in large quantities. Within 20 years, per capita consumption of the beverage doubled. Corn syrup flowed not only into the lives of Americans, but also into people's bloodstreams. Obesity rates also increased rapidly, not only in beverages, but corn syrup is often found in food. Look at this hamburger package where the beef is raised with corn. Bread can last longer when made with corn syrup. French fries are fried in corn oil. Even ketchup has corn syrup added to it. People can ingest corn syrup all the time. If it has a big event like the Super Bowl, Americans can consume 14,000 tons of tortilla chips in one day, 4,000 tons of avocado salsa, and 1,250,000,000 chicken wings. These numbers are staggering. It is even harder to imagine how much corn syrup people consume and how their weight changes. People are suffering the consequences of decisions the government made decades ago. The problem of obesity is becoming more and more serious. Hasn't anyone come up with a solution? The answer is no. Scientists have long concluded that excess fat and sugar can lead to obesity problems. Some scientists have tried to make efforts to try to change the eating habits of modern people, and a scientific dietary guideline was prepared. This caused huge discontent in the food industry, especially the sugar industry. They did everything they could to prevent the guidelines from being published because it threatened the profits of the industry. They even blamed obesity on people as lack of exercise. A research organization invited 300 children to take part in experimental tests to monitor their weight and exercise. But after some time, the scientists realized that the children did not exercise less than they did 30 years ago. But the average weight has been on an upward trend. This suggests that the cause of obesity is not entirely from lack of exercise. However, when the organization submitted the research results to the Ministry of Health, it was not heeded. Even the research funding support was terminated by the government. Because the food industry is so powerful, they can change things later. The World Health Organization also tried to publish a report. The report showed that excessive intake of sugar can have negative effects on the body, and a limit was set on the daily intake of sugar. Yet again, there was opposition from the food industry, and they debated with the WHO. They even went so far as to write directly to the officers of the World Health Organization, threatening to withdraw $460 million of grant money. Eventually, under multiple pressures, the report was not published. Powerful capital has triumphed again, and we are losing ground in this game against obesity. Obesity has spread throughout the world in just 40 years. People are suffering the consequences of some of their past decisions. Today, obesity is rampant. Globally, 1,400,000,000 adults face the problem of being physically overweight, with 500 million of them suffering from severe obesity. Americans spend $150 billion a year on health care to fight obesity, but oversized portions of high sugar, high-fat foods are still in everyone's life. Capital and profit are entangled, and the nature of the diet has changed, and people are being pushed into the abyss of the obesity spiral. But that doesn't mean we have to struggle through it endlessly. While there is no particularly effective way to address the deep-seated problem of obesity, we need to pay more and more attention to our own health. We can take positive action to build a healthy physique by regulating our diet and exercising.